Hello, my name is Jennifer Jean. Today I'm going to be looking closely at the poem, Injured Poem on the Table by Iranian poet Garous Abdolmalekian, which was recently co-translated by Ahmed, Nadal, Izeda, and Idra Novi for Abdolmalekian's collection, Lean Against This Late Hour. And that it's actually a great collection. I recommend it to everybody. Pick it up ASAP. But for now, let's read the poem together. Injured Poem on the Table. Even the new dawn has set. Staring at me from the table, an injured poem has accepted its last lines. The wind blows without brushing a single strand of my hair. It blows out a flame within me and departs. If this statue had legs, I know it would leave me as well. Seclusion is a wound larger than the body, and this door, even if it opens onto hell, will bring me joy. So as I was reading, I just noticed a misspelling. It's a word that exists in the world, so it's not marked as misspelled. But in the 4th stanza, it says, if this stature had legs, I meant statue. So I apologize to Garous and the co-translators. All right, well, let's take a look at this poem. So you'll notice I highlighted the word poem straight off the bat. Just having the word poem or poetry in a title makes me wonder right away, before I even continue the rest of the poem, whether this is an ars poetica. So that's something we'll look at and I'll try to comment on as I go through this. But just talking about a poem on the table, if it just said poem on the table, maybe, but injured poem, that's a personification of the poem. It definitely makes me think that there's something else going on, that the poem on the table, the thing itself is possibly representing something else. But then even if that's the case, poetry itself could be being interrogated or explored or commented on in some way in the poem. So as I said, we'll take a look at that. So the next highlighted portion is this little S in the beginning of the second stanza. And I did that because I just wanted to make sure I noted to all of you that I noticed something, maybe you noticed as well, that there is no punctuation throughout the poem. The only sort of indication that we are meant to pause are the line breaks, as well as these capitalizations at the beginning of the stanzas. Now, the third stanza has something a little different, this word it. I did not make a mistake there. I checked. It, as a word, is actually meant to be capitalized. So to me, that means that there's an understanding by I'm guessing the co-translators, because this is a bilingual edition. As I flip through it, there are no punctuation marks except for some ellipses in the side of the original language, Garous's original work. There's no punctuation marks. So my understanding is that as a co-translator myself of works, as I've discussed many times before, these co-translators, Ahmed and Idra, likely just made a decision about indicating to the English reading audience where a sentence would begin. Now, most of the sentences begin at the beginning of the stanza, but not in the case of the third stanza. So that's interesting. And it makes sense to me. Okay, so I know we didn't go over we'll backtrack to the first line into the second stanza in a moment. So I'm not too much jumping ahead, but the sense, the content of the first, let's call it stanza, even though there's no period, the wind blows without brushing a single strand of my hair. That content definitely is closely aligned with it being the wind, blows out a flame within me and departs. So we're still talking about the wind, okay? I mean, there's more to it than that, but these are two sentences as indicated by the capitalization that are closely aligned. So they crunched them together, and I think that was an excellent choice. It helped me as a reader understand the poem even more. And I'll explain that in a moment because I'm going to go back to that first line. So even the new dawn has set. Okay, that's interesting. That's such a cool line. Garous, you're amazing. Even the new dawn has set. To me, that means that there's something new going on, and there's a dawn rises. Okay, the dawn doesn't set, the sun sets in the sunset time at the end of the day. So even the new dawn has set, meaning just even the beginning is just an ending. That's works on so many levels, just as a person. And that sort of goes with this last line in the second stanza about last lines, because we're talking about the end. The end of the poem is actually the beginning of the poem. That's a really interesting concept. I like that. So we get that Ars Poetica moment going on there. Staring at me from the table. So again, a personified thing. The poem is staring at the writer. Has accepted its last line. So I don't know what the staring indicates. I'm fine with that mystery. I don't know if it's like staring, like please finish me, or I've accepted, or what's being communicated in terms of emotion. But it's definitely a little disturbing to have a thing stare at you. But poetry has often been called the poet's child, a book of poems. A lot of people talk about giving birth to the book of poems, whether they can physically give birth in their real lives or not. All kinds of poets talk about that. And I think that's an apt metaphor. It definitely feels like that, the labor pains that happen when you give birth to a book. I'm saying that as recently having one of my books out. Not the same as my children, but still the metaphor is apt. Okay, so to continue, let's go to this third stanza and just kind of gloss the meaning here. And then I'm going to say something about something important that'll relate to the upcoming writing prompt. Okay, so the wind blows. Suddenly there's a wind going on. We can imagine this if there's a table and the writer is writing. Okay, so in the reality realm, wind can be blowing in this circumstance. Okay, so wind blows without brushing a single strand of my hair. It blows out a flame within me. So whatever this wind is, it is not necessarily a physical wind. Maybe there was a physical wind blowing and none of the writer's hair blew. That could have happened. But more importantly, there's a contrast between these two sentences in this one stanza, the third stanza, between what's being moved on the outside, the body realm, and then what's going on within, maybe the soul realm, the flame within me. It's more of like, I guess, spirit or soul realm. And whatever this wind is, it can blow out this flame. But that sort of makes sense. It sounds really dire, but it makes sense when you finish a poem. So we're getting to the Ars Poetica aspect. And I didn't define Ars Poetica. I'm going to take a real quick moment. That's just a poem about poetry or poetry writing. Okay, so it blows out a flame within me. So the wind blowing could be, I'm thinking about Genesis, the God is like the wind in a couple of lines in Genesis, in various places. I think even the breath of life is breathed into the clay of Adam, and then Adam is alive, something like that. Okay, I'm trying to remember my Sunday school on the fly here, but it makes sense that this wind is something that's more divine, could be a muse, and it doesn't touch the physical self. There's no physical change, but it's definitely touching what's going on inside. And once those last lines are written, it departs. So again, not a bad thing. It's just poem's done, and so the flame is out. Okay, so let's go to if this statue, not stature. I'm not gonna dog on myself too much for misspelling something, because I am human. All right, so if this statue had legs, I know it would leave me as well. So I don't know what statue is being referred to, but this is really a compelling line in that this writer is saying that the flame is something. I was characterizing the flame being put out as not bad, because as a writer, it does feel, sort of like a letdown, like, I'm done with my poem, but, I'm not that put out by it because I know I'm going to write again. But there are plenty of writers that have that feeling. You might be one of them that think, I just finished this poem, and it's alive now. It's staring at me. And, it's gone. That feeling is gone, and that's sad. Oh, it just occurred to me what the statue might be. The statue might be the poem itself. It's in stone. That's what's kind of occurring to me now. So that's a possibility. I don't know if that's what this means. It makes more sense than just having some random statue next to this poem, to this table where the poet is writing, which could be something in real life, but it's harder to rationalize that for me. So I'm going to say the statue. If this statue, that convinces me to, saying this is the poem. If it had legs, it would walk away as well. So the poet is saying, I hate it when I'm left by the flame, by the poem, by the dawn, the beginnings of things. I don't like being left, which none of us do. So Garous, I get it. All right. So last stanza, seclusion is oh my gosh, another misspelling. Okay, I'm so embarrassed now. Wound, not is a wood. Jennifer. Okay, I'm smacking my face here for you. I'm smacking my wrist. All right, so seclusion is a wound larger than the body. That's so much of a better line than seclusion is a wood larger than the body. Okay, seclusion is a wound larger than the body. An excellent assertion, and I'm going to return to assertions in a moment. So it is, it's something that goes on inside, and it's bigger than any kind of wound that the body could sustain, is what the Garous is suggesting, and that's pretty profound. And this door. So we get the word this again. I think it goes back to this by this other misspelled word, by this statue, not stature. So if this door and this statue are the same, that makes sense to me. A poem is like a door. It opens up into a new understanding and a new world. That's another Ars Poetica moment. So if this door and this door, not if this door, and this door, even if it opens onto hell, will bring me joy. So whatever's being said in the poem, even if it opens onto hell, will bring me joy. That's really interesting, because that's very true to human psyche, the way the human psyche works. If you're secluded and you feel trapped, whatever the door is that opens, even if it's hellish, people will take it very often. And that's unfortunate. That's an unfortunate reality. It's just movement. You feel so secluded. It's like, I'll take whatever. I'll take even something that feels like hell so that I can feel. Some people get into that space where if they feel numb, they're not feeling anything. Any kind of feeling is joy. And that's a sad circumstance of humanity. But it's important to realize we're like that, and we can have that propensity. But I think this door is referring not just to this psychological aspect of humans, but to the poem. Even if the poem, maybe this poet's writing something that's really hard to write about, and it might be difficult for other people to read. I've written those kind of poems. As I said, I have a book out, Object Lesson. It's about human trafficking survivors and objectification, and it opens a door into these difficult topics, and for myself and for readers, but shedding the light, this is my viewpoint of my book, shedding the light onto these difficult topics ultimately leads to understanding the truth of what's going on in the world, which means when we understand truth, we can heal things. I don't know if Garous meant that, but that's where my mind is going with this last portion. It's going in all these different directions. That's what makes this a great poem. It works on so many levels. So I said I would go back to this idea of assertion. Each of these stanzas, I'm going to backtrack that. Each sentence, as set up by the capitalization at the beginning of it, because I want to include this it sentence right here in the third stanza. Each of these sentences is an assertion. Okay, that's really interesting. I think that these are assertions, not quite koan-like. They're not koan-like, but they are assertions saying even the new dawn has said. It's just, this is how it is. That's what I mean by assertion. So staring at me from the table, an injured poem has accepted its last lines. There's no question there. The wind blows without brushing a single strand of my hair. That's an assertion. There's no doubt. There's no question. It blows out a flame within me and departs. It's gone. Here's something though. If this statue had legs, the if is almost going out of the assertion level, but I know comes in the second line in that fourth stanza. So the I know creates that assertion again. It would leave me as well. Seclusion is. Anytime you say is, you're getting an assertion there. And this door, even if it opens to hell, will bring me. It will definitely bring me joy. So there's no if, ands, or buts about it. Okay, so now is the time when I give a wonderful writing prompt. But before I do that, if you're watching this on YouTube, please take time now to hit the subscribe button. I'd love to share more of these sorts of videos with you. Also hit the notification bell below so you can be notified when I do my postings on YouTube. In the description section for this video, you can find links to my Patreon, Twitter, Instagram, and website. On Instagram, you can find links to all these things in my bio. There's a little link in the bio. It goes to everything. All my exclusive poetry and creative community related content is available to patrons on my Patreon page. So more of these close reading videos. I also look at my own poems and discuss the choices I made and why I made those choices, even some doubts that I have, even after they're published in a book, which I know poets can relate to that feeling, the poem is never done sort of feeling. But yeah, I want to invite all of you to become a patron on my Patreon page. It's as low as $3. You can just check it out for a little bit, see if you like it. And join a great growing community. So now let's do the writing prompt.